Okay, we'll bring BOCC out of recess and open it up to public comment. I will mention real quickly, in an hour, our afternoon budget workshop has the jail, offender services, adult probation, expo tourism, sheriff and department emergency management, and office of public defender coming in an hour. So with that, we'll open it up to public comment. Say the third time, I guess.
I did buy a shirt, so I want to get.
You didn't hear Woody earlier.
I wasn't. I had to go over and I got Gators is under fire now, you might say, no pun intended, but anyway, I'm kind of helping him out a little bit. But that's for tomorrow. But not here. So anyway, mental health tax. How many times do I have to say it? We don't want the mental health tax. I've talked to every person in Longview at this point, and I have found, except for the small people that were here, everybody else is against it. And so,
Could you put some numbers on that?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
sort of,
well, it's like roughly 30,000 people in Longview. I got to all of them, and then I've been around to a bunch of the county, and nobody.
no, so are you saying that you put out a concentrated effort and you talk to probably 300 or 400 people, and out of that sample, you know that overwhelmingly they're.
Yeah, it's a math thing. I learned it in high school. You just project,
Oh, there's some very rigorous math that says how many people you need to sample to get a good statistic
yeah.
on that. And so you went around to various neighborhoods and
So you select the sample.
I what?
You selected the sample.
well, the question is not that he selected it, but how he selected it.
Well, he just said he went and picked them.
Well, if you want to know the truth, I prefer West Longview. I've done a little canvassing, and it's flat, and the houses are all really close to the sidewalk,
Yeah.
Yesterday I went around in town more, and the houses are like way back, and they got these porches that are like a labyrinth you got to get through to get up to there. And then when you finally get to the door, it says no soliciting. But that's the life of a canvasser. So anyway, back to this mental health tax thing. Man, I'm tired of us trying to solve I'm tired of government trying to get involved in everybody's problems, you know what I mean? And trying to solve everybody's problems, because they never do. Government has never solved these issues, and to keep doing it, it's crazy. And to hear all these people bloviate about, gosh darn, we got to help this little thing or that little thing. No, we don't. This is America. It's the land of opportunity, not the land of handouts.
So Tim, I can't help but ask you a question about why you're picking on this tax when there are other sales taxes that you never question.
No, I question them all. And
You haven't before us.
well,
All
that's
in this-
because this is the one that's at the front right now. And I know it's a small percent of a small percent. And that's why I have hope that we can get rid of a little tax, just a little one goes away. Then we can bring up some of these bigger, more egregious taxes. But-
One of the other sales taxes that we have is funds the Law and Justice Fund. And it's another tiny percent of
Law,
a
law
percent.
and justice, that's like some kind of oxymoron.
But you've
or
not
something,
mentioned
right?
that, even though that's.
Well, I'll be bringing these other taxes up. In fact, Dennis, because you're so knowledgeable in the tax things, you could just give me a list of them, and then I could come up here and read the list each time if you'd like. But like I say, this is the one that's on the front burner right now. And I know it's a small tax, but just think, one less tax.
Well, if I could help you too, the law and justice is really a proper function of the government.
Right.
And so, and that's not free.
That's right. But the fact is that law and justice is something that's paid for, should be, out of my property tax. Now, I know for a fact, it's not like I It's not like I own my property, the state owns it. And I get to pay them a little bit of rent every month or, annually. I just paid mine yesterday. That law and justice stuff is supposed to come out of that. Also roads. And if you could get roads right and then have this other part work right, then we might talk about some other things. But first things first, you know what I mean? Get government in its place. And I think that this board has come around to doing a pretty good job thanks to listening to me. And if you continue to listen to me, you'll always be right.
Yeah, I got to press you a little bit on this, despite the fact that some people don't.
I'm
really-
sorry.
No, they're saying you didn't speak to me and I live in West Longview or something like that. So I know you said in tongue in cheek that you talk to everybody in Longview, but you seriously have talked to a lot of people, because I know you're actively on helping people with campaigns, and I know you put signs up and all that, and you can't help but speak to people. Of the people to whom you speak, is there a sense there where you can say exactly, where you can say strongly that in fact an unbiased poll out there would suggest overwhelming desire to eliminate that tax?
Yeah. So in my canvassing, I carry a couple papers with me. And it's a tax setup, and this is the other one's the Longview budget. So it doesn't really matter exactly which tax I'm talking about. Everybody doesn't like it. I don't know another way of saying that. Now, to be fair, there is a very small percentage of people, I can think of 3 offhand that I've spoken to out of the last year that were like, well, everybody should pay their fair share. Although I don't think they have any idea of what the fair share is or what the fair share is going to. It's
Yeah.
we know we've had problems here in the past, and it's like in the county, when I speak into county people, we're doing a good job in the county as far as what the roads. Of course, we could free up our sheriff's department a little more to do some more things, have something more of a justice kind of thing. I've talked to lots of people that, call the sheriff or the police and nobody comes. And sometimes, those are personal people. They're different responses to things. If they call up and say, well, my cat's in a tree, well, maybe somebody's not coming. But when people are calling and saying, hey, there's some guy under my car with a saw and he's cutting off a part of my car and nobody shows up, well, no, that's a little different. That's like, or when they do show up and catch them, which they often do, or times, then nothing happens to the perpetrator. And so law and justice, if you want me to fund law and justice, when people are caught breaking the law, when they're committing an actual crime, then there should be law and justice. But do I need to pay an extra tax for them to not do anything?
Well, could I rephrase that by saying you are concerned that your tax money isn't effectively treating what it's supposed to treat? Because I don't know, maybe Mr. Weber knows, is the general fund money and other monies specifically allocated towards one function over another?
General tax revenues are not. There are certain specific taxes that are earmarked for certain activities like the ones we've
Like the,
mentioned today.
the reason the roads in the county are in good shape is because that is we take care of the taxes that go toward that. We don't play any games in that.
Well,
So one of the fundamental differences with cities, though, is out of their property tax and sales tax, they pay for libraries, they pay for fire protection, and the county doesn't do any of those.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one of the differences.
Well, I'd love to jump into that one because that's what the library you mentioned is a really good one. It gets me a lot of doors opened when I show them that what they spend on the library versus the roads. That's over in Longview though. But in the county, and I want to thank you, Dennis, because you know, in coming to these meetings and discovering how you were removing money from the roads, from the tax that we pay for roads and putting it into the general fund. Yeah, every time I talk to somebody and tell them that story, you know, and it's like, yeah, their hair catches on fire. They're mad right away. And it's kind of funny. I was over at Extreme Machines and I was talking to the county guys, the road crew guys that had their display there, and man, sat down, had a real long chat with those guys, at which I think most of the money should go to them personally. That's what we're paying our taxes for. And really for the amount that goes through, we should be driving on roads paved in gold as far as I'm concerned. You know, and our roads are in good condition, but if you look at what happened out on Tower Road, where they had that washout, and you look at how many millions we got to put in a bridge, you know, if there would have just been a little bit of, they knew about it, it had been reported by those homeowners there, those road crew guys all knew about it beforehand. But somehow, you know, the top guys didn't say, hey, you know what, let's go out and fix that spot right there before it goes worse. You know, and we got the sinkhole also over there on where I can't remember the, you know, out by Castle Rock. So
Pleasant Hill.
yeah, Pleasant Hill, thank you. And so, you know, there's a couple of spots there that could have been fixed beforehand. I know sometimes your hands are a little bit tied because of the fish thing, but there's a certain amount of this that's kind of ridiculous because the Pleasant Hill one, you know, well, we're going to put a bridge in someday before we, you know, we're not going to replace a culvert because of the fish. But I literally could easily throw a rock to the railroad track right there and there's a culvert. You know, nobody's telling the train what to do, the railroad there, and nobody's going to get on their case about putting a bridge there and the railroad's not going to do it. And it's kind of like they're doing work up on Ostrander too. And they're saying this opens up a bunch of fish migration and they're putting in a bridge there. Hey, and really these bridges are better than culverts. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. But the fact is what they're talking about fish habitat up there. First of all, no fish go past the weir. I've spent a lot of time hiking in the area and they got a weir set up down on the lower end and no fish go beyond where that bridge is. The weir is before it. So there's no fish are going to go up there, even though they said 18 miles of fish habitat or something. No fish is ever going to make it to there. They're blocked. They can't get up there. And so, you know, replacing that little spot with a bridge, it's better than a culvert, and it is kind of preventive maintenance. It's kind of an example of what should take place. But this whole thing of fish mitigation, okay, there's a weir, but also the river goes under the freeway there, and it goes through culverts. So there's always this little disconnect between what one side says versus what the reality is. And it's the same thing with the mental health tax. There's all kinds of people that make a living off this mental health tax, and it doesn't do any good. I've been here and watched their report, and I've done the math on it, and it doesn't pan out. And as a taxpayer, I don't feel like I should have to pay for other people's problems. I just don't think I should. And it goes to all these, you know, housing vouchers, boy, all that stuff that Gina had to put out. 60% of 30% of 75%. And it's like, well, you know, you look at government sometimes and they'll come out and they'll say, wow, somehow we've lost $1 billion. And you think, who's the accountant that gets to lose $1 billion and then still keeps his job? You know what I mean?
But what you don't see is the $1 billion is only 0.1% of $1 trillion. So no
Well,
problem.
Yeah, it's a rounding error is what they call it or something. But man, I don't know. When I was in school and I took math and stuff or test of any kind, I had to be 100% right. You couldn't get a rounding error and pass. So anyway, I know it's getting late for you guys and I know it's lunchtime. So taxation is theft. Don't forget it because I will keep saying it. I'll keep reminding you. What else can you call that right there?
Anything else? See none, we will adjourn. We'll be back in 45 minutes.
Maybe. Maybe.